So it's a pleasure to be here to share some of our learnings at Shankara in terms of inventory management. It was again very interesting to hear the previous talk. So what I have attempted probably aligns to that, saying that we inherently do certain activities because we think it is right. And actually, when you look at it from a management standpoint or a management education standpoint, somebody has given it a very fancy term. So during my talk, I'll walk you through some of the principles of inventory management that most of us are probably doing it in some form. That should give you the confidence that you're on the right track or give you certain insights into what you could adopt in your practice, irrespective of the scale of activity that you do. So from an inventory standpoint, ideally, you would like to run your hospital where you have all the right products that are available to you at the time that you want it. Of course, you don't want to have surplus inventory of stuff. So you don't want to start a surgery and suddenly realize a consumable to do it. Neither do you want to be in your optical shop where you have a patient who can afford to buy a progressive glass and you suddenly are not able to fulfill his requirement. So this is kind of an ideal situation that each one of us would aspire to be at. So today at Shankara, we are a network of 12 hospitals that span the length and breadth of the country, and each one of our hospitals is quite large. But that is why we are today 4 decades into eye care. As an organization, I think this is something I will again reiterate from what Dr. Arvind said. You need to be very clear about your roots as well as your purpose. As an organization, Dr. Ramani and Dr. Radha started Shankara, where 5 of their friends got together, and the first savings deposit that was put was 5 rupees. Until date, our purpose is, again, almost echoing what Arvind does, is to eliminate needless blindness. And we do it in a unique model where 80% of our surgical services we provide free of cost through a proactive door-to-door outreach. So that is our DNA, and we don't want to change that. Having said that, we need to make sure that we are sustaining our operations. For that, inventory becomes a very critical key. So the first concept that I would like to share is something that comes out of the manufacturing world that is called as the Kanban system. This is defined as a demand pull system. What do I mean by that? Each operation produces only what is necessary to satisfy the demand of the succeeding operation. So if there is a multi-step procedure that we do, you only have inventory or you roll over inventory that is required for the next activity. This is also sometimes referred to as the just-in-time kind of a system. It kind of straddles a little bit of both, where you're looking at low-cost, high-quality, on-time production. Now, this is okay in a manufacturing world where you're running a machine line, you know what you want to produce, you can switch on and switch off machines. In a hospital, is it even realistically possible? There are certain areas where we could implement this, but for this, your schedule has to be pakka. So one place where just-in-time can actually work is probably our operation theater, because you have pre-scheduled surgeries, you know exactly when you're going to do it. So that way, your final assembly or your prediction of what is going to happen, you have a plan of what consumables you could require. That is almost sacrosanct. You need to be very clear about the quality of materials that you use, because one bad batch is going to completely disrupt your services. So it is very critical for you, irrespective of again scale of operations, to be clear about the vendors that you want to patronize. A lot of us inherit practices from our mentors, but you should do that due diligence and that little extra step to identify where the inventory is coming from. And third, just-in-time can only work where there is very little fluctuation. So anything more than a 10% fluctuation is not really going to work. So parts of India see almost a 40% drop in outpatient and eye care requirement for almost about 4 to 5 months in a year. So in that kind of a situation, a just-in-time kind of an operation is just not going to work for you. The second concept that I would like to share, and again, this is something that we've seen in every one of our households, in the way the kitchen is arranged. It is called as a 5S system. It has fancy Japanese terminology, but to put it in plain English, it essentially means, have you sorted stuff to reduce clutter? So something that we have done proactively at Shankara is we've reduced our drug formulary so that for every particular product, we have only 2 or at best 3 variants. You cannot be wedded to one person. You need to have a backup. At the same time, having multiple kind of units does not help you at all. So one, reduce the clutter that you have. Second, you have to set an order. Again, a simple example out of a pharmacy. Usually you will have multiple batches that are delivered to you. So one batch can be kept outside. The next batch, you can keep it in a small box. As soon as the first batch gets over, you take it out and keep it on top. And typically in a pharmacy, you follow what is called as a first in, first out kind of a situation. Another trick for most of you small practitioners who are starting off, towards the end of a quarter or end of a financial year, typically you will have the pharma companies coming up with you with offers of short expiry drugs. Again, pick up stuff that you require. Don't over pick up inventory just because somebody is giving it to you at a discount. This has to follow a last in, first out kind of a situation. Third, where you store your inventory is very, very critical. The humidity should be controlled. Preferably, it should be air conditioned so that the life of your inventory is much more. We've often seen situations where stationaries have got completely wiped out because of fungus, and you end up spending a lot of your item. The third aspect that you need to do is you need to categorize your complete inventory into A, B, C. What does this mean? A is high value, possibly sometimes high volume. And then it kind of goes into B and C. So I've just taken an inventory of one of our hospitals where out of 160 items, about 21 items categorized as category A, 27 as category B, and there are 117 that are category, 112 that are category C. By just controlling A and B, 95% of the value can be controlled. So you need to pick the battles that you want to fight and not try and control everything else. To sustain this, you need to get into contracts. So you need to negotiate where your prices are fixed for at least 1 year, identify vendors so that they are also confident that you will patronize them and they will deliver it to you on time. Measurement is critical. As ophthalmologists, we are very, very obsessed with recording visual acuity. Similarly, you need to measure whatever inventory you have. You don't need fancy systems. A simple Excel spreadsheet can help you. But again, look at data over a 2 to 3 year horizon, or at least start building up data if you're starting a practice. This will help you in identifying seasonal and cyclical demand. You need to arrive at what is called as a reorder level. A simple thumb rule I've again taken for a BSS kind of a situation where you know that it is going to take you 4 days to order for the vendor to deliver to you. Your order cycle that you're typically looking at is at a 1 week kind of a time period. And you are always worried about running out of stock. So you want 7 days of stock held with you. So assuming that you're using up about 100 units a day, your reorder level will come up to 100 into 7. That is your average demand for 1 week. Your lead time of 400 units, that is for your to cover the transit time of stuff. And again, another 700 units that you're holding as your safety stock. So for each one of your large inventory items, you can arrive at what should be a minimum reorder level and trigger that automatically. You also need to understand that this metric works well where you have some control on the system. If you are in a location that is a little remote, then the time that it takes for you to procure and sell may be much more expensive than you holding inventory. So this can be a yardstick, but you cannot use it for everything else. So you need to figure out a way that your ordering costs as well as your holding costs. So when you are taking up space, imagine you were paying rent to store that item. Add that to your inventory. That is your actual cost. Add the cost for you to having to audit your stock at the end of the month. The next thing that you need to figure out is you need to optimize. Typically, we just negotiate down. You get 3 quotes. Whoever is the lowest, you give it to him. But what can help you is to do what is today even done in large multinationals is what is called as collaborative planning. So large motor companies actually give visibility to their entire inventory to the vendor, where he knows how much of stock you have. He can plan production and supply it to you. But having this kind of a long-term relationship with the vendor is very, very useful. They will also oblige you in terms of your requirement. So don't be shy about sharing your information. They will anyway get it. So as well be proactive and share so that they help you. The last bit of concepts that I wanted to share with you is when you're looking at inventory, the temptation is to keep the minimum possible that you have. But here is an example where Amazon was threatened by a company that was selling diapers. Now, why should they be scared? What happened was mothers who were shopping on diaper.com started slowly buying other products from them. So in the short term, there was opportunity that was lost. So there was a sale that was lost. There was a perception that was being built that Amazon never had what mothers wanted. And this negative experience can then impact your customers. So they then walk away from your platform or your organization saying there's no point going there anyway, they are not able to solve my problem. So while you're looking at inventory costs, while you're looking at financing, while you're looking at saying that, okay, how much of it is getting damaged, you want to control that. You also need to balance it out against what we call as lost sale. So if I had this product and there's a customer who wanted it, how much have I lost out? So end of the month, you need to measure that out and see how much of revenue you have lost because of you not having this particular inventory, and also how is it impacting your reputation in the market. So that is extremely critical. So what does Amazon do? When you Google up or when you look up Amazon for a white shirt, they give you multiple options. So that is something that we need to learn, saying that you need to build options across various category groups. I'll give you an example from about how we stock our opticals. So when a person walks into the optical, there are two options. One, he may walk in saying, I want a Tommy Hilfiger. In which case you should have about 3 or 4 options to show him that he can pick a frame off. But if somebody walks in saying, I want a rimless glass, there is no point in you stocking 4 or 5 Tommy Hilfigers. It is better and more prudent for you to have an array that could range from a Nike to a Vogue to a Tommy Hilfiger to a very low cost brand like an Inspire, so that based on the model that they can afford, they can actually buy it. So it is very critical when you're planning your operations that you're not reacting to what a customer wants, but you shape his demand. So you show him stuff that you have and allow him to choose from that. The last caveat that we have learned as an organization is the temptation when you're buying capital equipment is to bundle. Please be very careful because your ability to negotiate goes. So you're stuck with that product for about 3 to 5 years. It will be something equivalent of being in a very unhappy marriage. So as far as possible, de-link your capital costs from your operating costs, because somewhere that cost is hidden and it's going to hit you somewhere else. The workaround is to have what we would typically refer to in ophthalmology as a library stock, where they stock some of the material with you. This is a fancy management terminology called drop shipping, where you order a product and somebody delivers it to the customer. This is something that can work very well when you're dealing with contact lenses. So you can have a very small inventory of trial lenses. The final powered lens can be actually sent by the vendor, shipped directly to the customer. So you don't even need to bring it into your inventory. So you just pay the vendor and he ships it. So you need to pick some of these models. A lot of us do this intuitively. A lot of it, like I shared with you, has some management background. So it's good to know. So the information that you have, how you connect the dots and build your knowledge is extremely critical, because a lack of knowledge is something which will come and bite you back much later and becomes very, very critical and expensive in the long run. So once again, I thank Dr. Chitra and the ARC for inviting me for being a part of this session. Back to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Kaushik. It was a wonderful talk. Thank you so much. One quick question to you. So you said that you have around 12 branches. So when you do the purchase, is it better to have a centralized purchase and then send it to the other branches? Or there might be some good managers in some other branches who might get a better deal than the person who is doing in the central place. So how do you try to do these purchase kind of things whenever it comes to stocking up your inventory?
So Dr. Srinivas, like I mentioned, we have a category A, B, C, and there are certain things that are sacrosanct, where you cannot look at saving a rupee. So OT consumables is something we are very finicky about. So there we have a standard approved list. Similarly with our equipments. So we have a standard set of vendors because it just makes it much easier for us from servicing, from spares and all of it. So again, for those of you looking at setting up small practices with multiple chambers, it makes sense for you to use one type of slit lamp. It makes sense for you to look at multiple types of the same operating microscope. So that builds in efficiency into the system. So for certain consumables which are non-negotiable in terms of the quality and the brand, we fix that and we don't allow the unit to deviate. So our ERP system today does not allow them to order anything beyond that. For category C items, they are free to order. Some of our products, again, they are able to negotiate better. So we go back to that vendor and negotiate it down, saying that, look, you're supplying it to me in Guntur at such a rate. Why are you not giving it to me elsewhere? But typically when it's a rate contract across the country, the vendor is also much more obliging because there's a much larger volume that is available.
So you use different
like I said, we allow 2 or 3 products that they can pick from.
So you use a different software to do this. Like I was learned that you use the Zoho software to do this management. Or is it better to have everything under one umbrella? You have the clinical, the inventory management, the finance and everything under the one software, or have the big pieces of these softwares and try to juggle with them?
So honestly, I don't think there is a single solution for it. So we've recently migrated to Oracle NetSuite because of our operations required us to do that. Prior to that, we were using a single hospital management information system that had some aspects of inventory management built into that. Like I said, an Excel spreadsheet can be a wonderful tool for you to control inventory. You don't need something very fancy. End of the day, it is the data that you have, how you analyze the data, and how you act on the data that is critical. The ERP solutions help you in sometimes automating it in terms of reports and building dashboards so that you have a much more real-time view into it. So that would be, it depends on the scale. So any ERP solution again comes at a cost. So again, that is going to add on to your inventory cost. So you need to trade off, saying that if I'm a small practitioner having a small operation theater, it does not make sense for you to invest in a very large ERP system. But you should know what is coming in, what is going out.
Thank you, Dr. Kaushik, for those wonderful answers. Tulsi sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Any your views, your thoughts?
Just a few tips based on our experience. One is this will apply for large or small because scale gives you a bargaining power. So if you're a large organization like Shankara with 12 hospitals and a high volume of work, you have scale in that sense. But even for a smaller organization, you can negotiate based on your annual volume. Because I recollect when I first joined Aravind 40 years ago, we were very small. And initially we used to order things as needed. You wanted to print something, we'll order for that particular print. And then we would get a certain price. And then we knew that we could do better. So then in a couple of years later, we estimated the annual requirements, for multiple things. If it is stationery, those days when everything was on paper, half your inventory stores was paper. So we made an annual requirement of all our printed items, forms and this and that became lakhs and lakhs worth, very attractive to many printers. So we got really extremely competitive rates, but of course, you're not buying everything for 1 year at a time. So this is our annual requirement and we want you to deliver it on a monthly basis. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that you want to leverage scale. I think even a small practice, you have scale. And another point is that when it comes to lead time and things like that, and how much stock you hold and all that, today I think you can be really, really lean in stock holding. Within Aravind, I think for several items, our stock holding is in days, 5 days, 6 days, like that, because the market is very competitive. And there's certain things, if you have the volume, you can have them deliver on a daily basis and they will do it. So that is another thing which we are doing now. So we have gone from a situation where our storekeepers would constantly ask for more space to now they have adequate space because we really trimmed down the stock holding, and it's got many other benefits. And final point is that, very contrary to common belief, we actually monitor how long we take to pay the bill to the vendor. Ideally, we want to pay it immediately. The minute we have verified that stock has come in, quality is good, is as per the rate, once that is done, the payment should be made immediately. So we really don't delay or take credit. So that has helped us get really attractive prices. And whenever there has been some shortage, which is cyclic, something goes out of market, we always will be the preferred client. We would get what we need. So these are some of the very practical tips. The rest of it, Kaushik has covered wonderfully.
Thank you, Tulsi sir. One last question to both of you. Many ophthalmologists keep asking me, what's the software you need to use? So whether it has to cover everything together, the same question which I asked to Dr. Kaushik as well, or buy and software who are already into the ophthalmology. Like say, for example, LakySoft is there, EHNotes is there, or develop your own software. Because in tier 2 or tier 3 cities, it is difficult to get such professionals. So but if we go on to these high-end softwares, they charge per patient. So they charge around 5 rupees, 10 rupees per patient. So what is your thing to most of the general ophthalmologists, not for so big institutions like yours or Shankara, but who are medium or small scale, what they need to do about these software kind of systems?
I think one caution is now almost all software is becoming real time. In the sense, like if it is EMR, you're entering data in real time. If it is stores, you are using it in real time. So which really means that your workflow has to match the logic used in the EMR or in the inventory management, whatever. So that is, I think, one point of filter or consideration that you really will need to have. So second, in terms of cost, I think to make that judgment, if you are small, probably paying per patient may not be a bad idea because you can save on investment and then you are not taxed or billed on the fluctuations of patient volumes. However, if you're on a large high scale, then you really want to take cognizance of that. And the third question of build or buy. So like in our case, we have chosen to build ourselves. We in fact looked at Oracle NetSuite, and then we're kind of not sure we're going to go in for it or not. Because with all those products, they have tremendously more capabilities than you will ever use. And then you'll end up paying for it indirectly. So we are often tempted to build on our own, like we built our own EMR and HMS and inventory, HRIS, all of it is home built. We do it for two reasons. One, we want those systems to reflect our way of working. And the second one is to kind of save costs, obviously. So this will have to be a decision made on a case-to-case basis. Yeah. On to you, Kaushik.
So we've taken the exact opposite path of picking up specialized products for various activities. So we run a separate system for our HR. We run a separate, we used to be on Tally earlier for our finance. We had a separate HMIS. We didn't have EMR for a longest time. We were on paper records. We then started scanning it to digitize medical record. Because honestly, we didn't believe that we had the complete overall expertise to look at it holistically. So our thought was take the best-in-class product, adopt what the best practices for that particular area is, and walk through it. So we started digitizing the areas that we thought were most critical. So we started from the finance, management, the hospital basic process of registration and making sure that that aspect was digitized and slowly move to the clinical side. Often you will find that we as doctors are the last to adopt anything to do with technology, especially when it comes to EMR. So we said we'll keep the most difficult battle to the last, and that has been the path that we've honestly taken. I think Sir was spot on in saying that you can't really, it depends on your ability to, the time that you want to spend, because the downside of picking up these multiple things is they need to start talking to each other. So that interface and the data that flows from one system to the other, that has to be seamless. So if you have that passion and capability, Dr. Arvind spoke about being entrepreneurial. So say you are entrepreneurial from that standpoint of saying, okay, I want to figure out the best way of doing it, and that gives you that extra kick in life apart from the surgeries that you're doing, then that could be it. Or if there is somebody else who can play that role, you have a professional who can do that, then that becomes very useful. We have that team that can help us in consolidating and building it. Therefore, we've chosen that. But for a general ophthalmologist, I would say the most critical aspect is to have a good accounting package, because that is the most critical element. You're going to struggle for that one surgery, counsel that patient, do that surgery. And if you're going to be losing money because of bad accounting, bad inventory, then what is the point? So you need to get your priorities very, very clear first.
Very true, Kaushik sir. I think we had both the discussions, two sides of the coin, and one says you can develop your own, and other says take the best in the market and try to bridge it. It's very wonderful. You know, these kind of discussions is what our ophthalmologists need. That is what we all need it. And thank you so much, Dr. Kaushik.